Hello everybody, once again this is Morgan from RacerX Performance Tuning. In today's episode of Tuner Diary, we're going to review this beautiful 1996 Mitsubishi Eclipse GST Spyder and our quest for 600 horsepower. The client had been eager to enjoy his car on the road after several upgrades and a long downtime. His goals were to have a powerful car that had good manners on the street so that he could row through the gears without spinning the tires on every shift. First, let's pop the hood and take a look at some of the goodies in the engine bay. We start off with a 2.3-liter stroker 4G63T engine on a 1G ported head, added with Seiko boost line rods with Seiko 1400 HD pistons and Ferrera 6000 valves, throw in some BC 268-272 cams. And turbo-wise, we got a Zona XR6157S UHF turbo, supplied by Walbro 450 lph fuel pump, Precision 1700cc injectors, and all this is running flex fuel E85. Finally, we got an AEM 3-port boost solenoid, FP race manifold, FP exhaust housing, ported cyclone intake, and a built trans with Quafey LSD. All that supplying an ACT 2600 clutch. We took some time to review the existing tune and setup together with our partner Remy's Rides. Then it was time to make a few changes. First, we swapped the electronic boost controller and replaced it with a 3-port boost solenoid so the ECMLink could manage the boost through the tuning process. Next, although the car had been tuned in the past, I took some time to review the existing calibration and noted some areas I wanted to do a little differently. We set up data logging and got the car out on the streets to do the cruise fuel tuning and get some real-world data. While trying to dial in the cruise fuel, we ran into a pesky cylinder 3 misfire that would cause the car to sputter and run on 3 cylinders from time to time. We replaced everything from spark plugs to plug wires to the coil pack, and then we cleaned the injectors. Finally, we got past that issue and we were ready for the dyno. Though the car had been dynoed previously to as high as 596 horsepower, we did see in the dynograph quite a bit of oscillation from 5500 RPM on up as they tried to keep the wastegate closed. From the logs on the street, we found that we were getting some knock retard even with as little as 16 psi in part throttle. So we kept both of these things in mind as we went about tuning this beautiful DSM. For the wide open throttle fuel tuning, we first went in and made some necessary changes to the target fuel map to make it more appropriate for the E85 we were running. Then from there, we changed the stoichiometric ratio from 14.1 to 1, which is appropriate for pump gas at 10% ethanol, to 9.7 to 1, which is more appropriate for E85. Between our wide open throttle fuel pulls on the dyno, we took advantage of Megalog Viewer to check our key attributes for knock, injector duty cycle, and AFRs. Here with a custom chart we can view the average wideband factor, which is ECMLink's way of recording AFR error rates. We can take this information and then directly update the volumetric efficiency table, followed by some interpolation to keep our transitions smooth. After just a few pulls, we were able to dial in our speed density map so that we matched our fuel targets across the entire RPM range. After we completed the fuel tuning, we had established a baseline with 347 horsepower and 325 foot-pounds of torque, with a nice, smooth power band curve as well. At the same time, we established that our wastegate spring pressure was right at 12 psi. For the boost tuning, we start off using an open loop method by turning off boost error correction and zeroing out our boost targets. From there, we set our first duty cycle values to 10%. Typically, you may not see any boost above the spring pressure until you've reached, let's say, 30% duty cycle. However, this turbo was very responsive to duty cycle, and even with as little as 10%, we saw our boost values jump right up to 18 psi. Once again, using Megalog Viewer and a simple Excel spreadsheet, we could document how much boost we were getting at each RPM as we increased the duty cycle. With the wastegate spring being only 12 pounds, the most boost we could theoretically make is 24 psi, or twice the spring pressure. We were able to get it up to 28 psi at only 15% duty cycle, but we couldn't generate anything further due to back pressure and the laws of physics. Clearly, the turbo and the engine could support a lot more. However, you can never boost lower than your spring pressure. The customer's goal was to have a car that behaved nicely on the street, so we sacrificed more power for greater street manners. Once we had determined our duty cycle to boost values, we were able to turn on closed loop and also enable ECMLink's spool up assist feature so that we can run the boost solenoid at 100% duty cycle until we were just past about 12 psi and then let the closed loop manage things from there. These 30-year-old cars, sooner or later some parts are going to start to fail. While we were in the middle of boost tuning, the throttle position sensor died on us. Luckily, Lewis from Countersteer was right on the scene with a feeler gauge and a multimeter to verify our TPS was dead. The client had another one at home, so we swapped that out and continued our tuning the next day. So after we set up our boost by gear, it was time to turn our attention to the MBT advanced timing. The goal here is to continue to add timing 2 or 3 degrees at a time until you either stop seeing torque gains or you start running into knock. Normally, this is the stage where you see some dramatic power gains, but each car is different, and with the Eclipse, we found that we maximized timing within just a few revisions. At the end, this led us to our highest torque and horsepower numbers of the day. Alright, so we just finished up with the 1996 Eclipse GST on the dyno, and here with the owner Lynn. We started off at a baseline of 348 horsepower and 326 foot-pounds of torque. That was running at a wastegate pressure of about 11 to 12 psi. All said and done, we got up to about 28 psi and tried to tweak around a little bit with timing. Ended up at 581 horsepower and 568 torque. So what do you think about the whole tuning experience, Lynn? I know it's been a little bit of a journey, right?
Yeah, I mean, other than the sensor, not your fault. Kind of goes crapping out. It was good, and I'm hoping that this will translate into the street and it won't just burn out my tires.
Awesome, man.
So
awesome.
We'll see.
All right. Well, really appreciate working with you. We had some adventures for sure, but you know what? Was a really nice thing about being here at Countersteer is that Lewis was able to just jump right in and quickly diagnose that throttle position sensor, and we
Great
lost.
guys, I recommend them.
Yeah, and we lost like just a little bit of time just to go home and get another one.
That's right.
Back today and all done. So we're gonna wrap up with RacerX Performance Tuning with the 1996 Eclipse GST, and we'll be back to see you guys again soon.
thing.